Welcome to KetoMealsAndRecipes.com. As I promised when I did my Celeriac Puree video, today I'm presenting my adapted keto shepherd's pie, which I based on a traditional shepherd's pie recipe. For this recipe, I'm using tasty ground lamb, not beef, because using beef is not a shepherd's pie. Just ask yourself, what do shepherds watch over? Sheep, not cows. That's why a real shepherd's pie is made with ground lamb. So what do you call a similar recipe that actually uses beef? The name of the beef version is actually called a cottage pie. I found this name very interesting. I would have called it a cowboy pie because cowboys, cows, that whole relationship. Anyway, getting back to my shepherd's pie recipe, you can see that this looks very much like a traditional shepherd's pie. And when you make and taste your shepherd's pie, you will find that this adaptation is a very good approximation to the traditional Irish shepherd's pie. Now for the macronutrient ratio. The macronutrient ratio is 2:1 with 9.1 grams of total carbs, 1.3 grams of soluble fiber, 0.5 grams of insoluble fiber, resulting in 7.3 grams of net carbs per generous serving. As always, I recommend you prepare your ingredients, weighing them out carefully before you begin the recipe. The first thing you have to do is to prepare the celeriac puree as per my previous video. I will provide the link to the celeriac puree video in the description below. Once you have made the celeriac puree, also known as celery root puree, set it aside for a moment. And now we're ready for step 2, which is to prepare the meat. First heat the frying pan and then add the oil. When the oil is nice and hot, add the grated onion. Sauté over medium-low heat until the grated onion begins to look translucent. That's about 1 minute. Add the grated garlic and stir and sauté for about 30 seconds. Then add the grated carrots and sauté for 1 to 2 minutes, or until the carrots are starting to look tender. Stir to combine all the ingredients and then push everything to the perimeter of your pan. Add the ground lamb to the center of the pot and cook until the ground lamb is browned. Add the tomato puree, the Worcestershire sauce, your seasonings, which are pepper, rosemary, and thyme, and the salt. Stir everything together, and lastly, add the chicken broth. Stir everything together and cook for 2 minutes to have all the flavors combine. While the meat mixture is cooking, first preheat the oven to 190 degrees Celsius or 370 degrees Fahrenheit. And take this time to prepare the mashed celeriac topping. Here I had to take a bit of creative license, and it's a bit different than the mashed potato preparation. Begin by getting your bowl of celeriac puree you had previously set aside. Put your celeriac puree into a mixing bowl. Add the 2 egg yolks. Whisk your yolks into the puree, making sure they are well combined. Then sprinkle half of the grated Parmesan cheese over the puree, and then whisk to combine. And then repeat with the second half of the grated Parmesan cheese. The addition of this grated Parmesan is not strictly part of the traditional recipe, but I really like the flavor it adds to my celeriac puree. And the grated Parmesan gives the puree a more mashed potato mouthfeel and taste. But you can leave the Parmesan cheese out, or alternatively, you can substitute the Parmesan cheese with another cheese such as cream cheese. Now that the individual components are ready, I'm ready to assemble the shepherd's pie. At this point, you can choose to make 1 large 8-serving casserole or 8 individual serving portions. For the single serving portion, use individual serving sized ramekins. But first, grease each ramekin. For individual servings, I used about 1/8 of the prepared meat and 1/8 of the prepared mashed celeriac. This makes it very easy to create portion-controlled and prepare ahead meals. Then put 1/8 of the cooked lamb mixture into the bottom of each ramekin. Press down gently. Then top each ramekin with 1/8 of the prepared celeriac mash preparation. If you're not serving right away, you can either pre-bake, so all you have to do is reheat when you're ready to serve, or you can freeze before baking, and then you just have to bake before serving. To freeze either the baked or non-baked individual serving dishes, cover each individual ramekin with cling wrap so that the cling wrap is actually touching the surface of the celeriac mash layer. Then put each ramekin into a sealable freezer bag and store in the freezer until needed. The best way to thaw this is to take your ramekins out of the freezer the night before and place it into the fridge overnight. And when you want to serve, either bake or reheat, depending on what you did before freezing. Alternatively, you can prepare the entire meal in one large casserole pan. First, grease your casserole dish, bottom and sides. Then add the meat mixture to the bottom of your casserole pan. Spread out and press down on the meat to even out this layer. For the assembly step, I have found that the best way to have a really nice presentation and an even thickness for my mash layer is to place dollops of mashed celeriac over the surface of the meat, as I'm showing here. Use your spatula to then spread out the celeriac mash so that this top layer is distributed evenly over the entire surface. The next step is optional, but I recommend you do this step because it will add nice crispiness and a golden color to the finished shepherd's pie. This optional step is to grate some Parmesan cheese over the surface. Now to bake. Place your casserole pan or ramekins if you're doing individual servings, uncovered into the middle position of your preheated oven and bake for 20 minutes. Take the finished casserole or ramekin out of the oven and let it rest for 10 minutes before serving. If you're serving it from the casserole, now partition it into 8 equal servings. But for this video, since I wanted to show you single serving and casserole preparation, I used a smaller casserole which equaled 4 servings, and I also had 4 individual serving ramekins. I hope you give this recipe a try. I'm sure you will enjoy it. If you're new to my channel or have not done so before, your show of support for my videos by subscribing would be most sincerely appreciated. And thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you'll come back and join me next time. The link for the full shepherd's pie written recipe and the link for the celeriac puree video are provided in the description below.